Good afternoon. Welcome to the classes of Indian polity. We'll resume the session today again. So we are discussing about the budget, and today's news you might have seen yesterday and today in the newspaper. So there is a news regarding the commencement of the budget session of the parliament. So that is going to be commenced from February 23rd onwards. And all of you who have followed my classes regarding budget, you will be in a position to understand what exactly is happening in the parliament. And kindly, if the time permits for you, please watch the video once again and also go through the notes that is present in our site. Plus follow the practically what is happening in the parliament, the budget. So from February 23rd onwards, the budget session is going to begin. And on February 26th this year, railway budget is going to be presented. Immediately followed by the next day, presentation of the economic survey. And on February 28th, the government is going to present the general budget, railway budget, economic survey, and followed by the general budget. And the rest of the things will happen as usual, whatever we have discussed. Now let me open the document straight away and let me have a discussion with you regarding the same. Look at this. So we have seen certain points in the previous class, and we have come across up to certain points like policy cut, token cut, and economy cut. During that time, we have seen very clearly policy cut is nothing but the total amount is reduced to ₹1. In economy cut, the total amount is reduced by the specified amount. In token cut, the total amount is reduced by ₹100. So this is what we have understood. And later, so we have seen something called note. As we know, the budget contains two parts. One is the income, second one is the expenditure. The income and expenditure parts are presented, discussed, and passed separately in the form of two bills. One is the appropriation bill, that is the expenditure bill, and the second one is the finance bill, that is the income bill. Already we have understood all the tax proposals of the government of India are mentioned in the finance bill, right? These two bills form the fourth and fifth step of the enactment of the budget. We already understood there are 5 steps, 5 stages in the enactment of the budget. Already we have seen 1, 2, 3. That is the presentation of the budget, general discussion, and followed by voting on demand for grants. So now we are talking about the consideration and passing of the appropriation bill, that is the expenditure bill. So let me tell you a few points here. I would like to talk to you now. See, basically, we have two contents in the budget. One is the income part and second one is the expenditure part. In our previous class, I told you it is the expenditure part which is prepared first. Accordingly, the finance minister will have a meeting with the Central Board for Direct Taxes and the Central Board for Indirect Taxes. And after having discussion with them, then the finance minister will be preparing the income part. So hence, first it is the expenditure followed by the income part that will be prepared. Meaning, appropriation bill is prepared first, followed by the finance bill. In the similar manner, when you are introducing the budget in the parliament, first expenditure part will be introduced, then the income part will be introduced. First expenditure part will be discussed, voted and passed. Later, the income part will be discussed, voted and passed. This is what happens with respect to the budget. Kindly see here, I would like to make one clear-cut clarification to you. Please follow me very clearly. During the step number 3, that is voting on demand for grants, we made it very, very clear that the entire expenditure of the government is divided into 109 plus 32 demands. 109 general demands, 109 demands in the general budget, followed by 32 demands in the railway budget. we have understood what exactly is the meaning of this. Meaning, each and every part of the expenditure has to be discussed in an elaborate manner. So that is the basic idea. That's the reason why 26 days have been allocated. Meaning, whatever we have discussed during the 26 days, and wherever we have used the words closure, guillotine, policy cut, economy cut, and token cut, that is nothing but a part of the expenditure. Meaning, at step number 3, in a detailed discussion, we have completed the whole discussion with respect to the expenditure part. And once the whole discussion on the expenditure part is over, once it is discussed and voted, then again, what is this step number 4? Step number 4 talks in terms of the consideration and passing of the appropriation bill. At step number 3 also, we have discussed and passed the expenditure. Meaning, when it comes to the step number 4, the finance minister will club all the demands into one bill, and that bill is called appropriation bill, and that bill will be again introduced in the parliament. What do you mean by this? When you are discussing and voting on 141 demands separately, the formalities in the parliament will say that certain things must be discussed in the form of a bill, voted in the form of a bill, and passed in the form of a bill, not as a separate entities. So that is the basic idea. Excuse me. That is a basic idea with respect to the bill here. That's the reason why whatever we have discussed and voted in the form of voting on demand for grants, all of them will be put together, and the finance minister will call that as the appropriation bill. It takes very little time to pass the appropriation bill, because at step number 3, a detailed discussion and voting has already been completed. But in order to vote in the form of a bill, again we are introducing the appropriation bill. Because the discussion is already over, at step number 4, the discussion is not permitted, only voting is permitted. Voting is permitted because this particular demands have been voted, but not in the form of a bill. In order to give the strength to this one, so the finance minister will be introducing the appropriation bill, and he'll be asking the members to vote for this. And kindly look at this, the step number 4 will be completed in the Lok Sabha within a very, very little period of time. No much discussion will take place, rather zero discussion will take place, but the members will be asked to vote. Once the members vote in favor of this bill, immediately the speaker announces that the appropriation bill has been passed, and the bill will be forwarded to the so-called the Rajya Sabha. And you know the rest of the story. Once it goes to the Rajya Sabha can discuss the bill for not more than 14 days. If Rajya Sabha wants to give any suggestions, it may give the suggestions, but the Lok Sabha may accept, may not accept those suggestions. Later, once 14 days are over, the bill will be forwarded to the President of India, and the President of India cannot send back the appropriation bill, because this appropriation bill was introduced in the Parliament only on the prior recommendation of the President. That's the reason why he cannot send back the bill for reconsideration. He will be signing the bill, and appropriation bill becomes an appropriation act. Once appropriation bill becomes appropriation act, it is the responsibility of the government to draw the money from the consolidated fund of India and spend the money. Until and unless the appropriation bill becomes an appropriation act, the ministers cannot draw the money. That is the usage, that is the power of the appropriation act. Now I'll show you the document. I'll tell you the points, simple points here again. Look at this. Consideration and passing the appropriation bill. This is the 4th stage of the budget. The appropriation bill is meant for getting the approval for the expenditure out of the consolidated fund of India. The government cannot withdraw the money from the consolidated fund of India till the enactment of the appropriation bill. Hopefully, you are following each and every point. Very simple points. All the demands that are discussed and voted during the voting on demand for grants are put together in the form of a bill, and it is called appropriation bill. Now look at this. Sorry. The appropriation bill contains, look at this, the grants voted by the parliament and the expenditure charged on the consolidated fund of India. In the previous class, we have explained very clearly what is the meaning of the charged expenditure and what is the meaning of the expenditure made. If it is expenditure made, only on that one voting will take place. So if it is expenditure charge, that particular expenditure is meant only for the discussion and not for the voting. No changes can be proposed to the appropriation bill. The appropriation bill is not discussed as the discussion is already completed during the voting on demand for grants. The appropriation bill is voted. Look at this note. During the voting on demand for grants, all the demands are voted separately and not in the form of a bill. Hence, the appropriation bill has to be voted. Look at this next one. After the appropriation bill is passed in the Lok Sabha, the bill is forwarded to the Rajya Sabha. Same story, you know the whole story from now onwards. Next, if you go to the next line, the Rajya Sabha has no power to vote the appropriation bill. Rajya Sabha can discuss the appropriation bill and send recommendations, if any, to the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha may or may not accept the recommendations. In any case, the Rajya Sabha must return the appropriation bill to the Lok Sabha within 14 days, and the appropriation bill is forwarded to the President, and he cannot send back the bill for reconsideration. President must give the assent, and the appropriation bill becomes Appropriation Act, and the Appropriation Act authorizes the payment from the consolidated fund of India. So this is the whole story with respect to the consideration and passing of the appropriation bill. Next one is the consideration and passing the finance bill. Look at this next one. This is the last stage in the enactment of the budget. Already we have seen finance bill will consist of the income part. There is the income part of the so-called this government. That's the reason why all the tax proposals are mentioned in the finance bill. But the constitution has laid certain conditions with respect to the finance bill. So what are these conditions? Let's try to understand. See, generally what will happen, every time we'll see, every year we'll see, if not every year, very frequently, we see that the taxes are being increased. The taxes are being increased. But whenever a tax proposal comes to the Lok Sabha has every right to demand for decreasing the tax, or the Lok Sabha has every right to demand for the abolition of a tax. But the Lok Sabha cannot demand for increasing the tax. Very, very important. Kindly remember this. Since Lok Sabha is the representatives of the peoples, they should always fight on behalf of the people, where you can demand for the reduction of a tax, where you can demand for abolition of a tax, but you cannot demand for increasing the tax. So this is one fundamental principle. Kindly remember this one. I'll open the document and I will speak to you now with respect to this budget. Look at this. The tax proposals are mentioned in the finance bill. The finance bill is subjected to all the conditions applicable to the appropriation bill. Look at this. As per the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act of 1931, the finance bill must be enacted within a period of 75 days. Within 75 days, it must be enacted. And the finance bill is also introduced first in the Lok Sabha. You know the whole story. Since this is also a money bill, It must be introduced first in the Lok Sabha. Unlike the appropriation bill, the changes are allowed in the finance bill. The parliament can demand for the reduction of a tax or abolition of a tax, but the parliament cannot demand for the increasing of a tax. Look at this. After this bill is passed in the Lok Sabha, the bill will be forwarded to the Rajya Sabha. In any case, Rajya Sabha must return the bill within 14 days. The finance bill is forwarded to the president, and the president cannot send back the finance bill for reconsideration. With the assent of the president, the finance bill become a finance act. This gives effect to the financial proposals of the government of India, meaning the government can start taxing the people, start taxing the people there. Now, this gives effect to the financial proposals of the government of India. The Finance Act legalizes the income side of the budget and completes the process of the enactment of the budget. Look at this. Kindly see here, observe kindly one thing. The most important thing what I would like to say is that here, when you are spending the money, the government is drawing the money that is present in the consolidated fund of India. Money is drawn from the consolidated fund of India. In the similar manner, when the government is collecting the taxes, you are collecting the taxes from the people, and the collected taxes, collected money should also be deposited in the consolidated fund of India. Kindly remember this statement here. Consolidated fund of India is an account of the government of India where the government will maintain with the RBI. And this is the fund where you have the huge money, all the money that is required for, all the money that is required for expenditure will be drawn from here. All the money that you are collecting in the form of the taxes will also be deposited in the consolidated fund of India. Am I clear? So these are the points. Now, next one, look at this. Sometimes you will also come across with the concept of the vote on account. Very frequently you will come across with this. What is this? Vote on account is an advanced grant in respect to the estimates expenditure for a part of the financial year, pending the completion of the voting of the demands for grants and enactment of the appropriation bill. Okay, so this is the meaning of the vote on account, right? Now look at this. For example, see, as we know, certain fundamental points kindly see here. As we know that the financial year in India begins on April 1st and ends on March 31st. The expenditure and the tax collection of a particular financial year must take place during this period only. But starting from the date of introduction of the budget in the parliament, there is the last working day of the February. By the time it becomes act, it goes on till the end of April, and most of the times it will go up to May also. But the financial year begins on April 1st. By the time the whole process is completed, it is going to become May. But then during this time, what will happen? The government needs money to carry on its activities after March 31st. But some assumption is that the previous year money may be available that can be used, but the answer is not. Kindly make a note of this. The previous year money, if it is available also, it cannot be used because of the rule of lapse. What do you mean by rule of lapse? Kindly read this particular point. The money which is allocated for a particular financial year should be used only during that financial year. That's it. You cannot use the this year's money in the next year. Then how do you tackle with the situation? That's the reason why, to overcome the situation, the constitution has authorized the Lok Sabha to make any grant in advance in respect to the estimated expenditure for a part of the financial year, pending the completion of the voting of the demand for grants of the appropriation bill, and this is called vote on account. Kindly remember this one. This vote on account is passed by the Lok Sabha immediately after the general election. Meaning, through vote on account, the government is requesting the Lok Sabha to grant some money in advance so that it will take care of the needs of the first 2 months. Generally, this is granted for 2 months, and the vote on account is equivalent to 1/6 of the total estimation. Is it okay? Right. Now, see here, if you look at this stage, this one, uh, let me stop this at this stage, and we'll continue this topic later. Fine. I wish you all the very best.